We're welcoming Patrick to the show today. Super happy to have you on the Growth Insider. Patrick is a very seasoned technology founder and CEO. So, Patrick, why don't we start with just giving them a little bit of background on who you are, where you're from, and your company?
Sure. So my name is Patrick MacKay. I am currently the Chief Operating Officer at Pi Squared. So Pi Squared, we are a venture-backed company started in October of 2023. We raised our seed round in May of 2024. And what we're building, after I would say many narrative switches and kind of product market fit iterations, which I think is perfectly normal and acceptable, and shouldn't be frowned upon. Not that it is, but we're building fast payment and settlement infrastructure for the Web3 space to serve, I guess, B2B payments within Web3. So it's definitely a B2B play as opposed to a B2C play. So we're looking to integrate and work with and collaborate and partner with a variety of companies that are building, emerging technology and applications across Web3. Now, prior to co-founding Pi Squared, I was the COO at Runtime Verification. So Runtime Verification is a software testing and verification services firm in the Web3 space. So common nomenclature, if you will, referred to as a security auditor. So Runtime and other folks like it work with projects that are building applications, building protocols, and they work with those companies before those folks launch their product, before they launch their smart contract, their token, their protocol, from a security perspective, right? So identifying, flaws, exploits, holes that nefarious actors could attack. Because the one thing about Web3 that is obviously different than, I don't know, traditional finance, traditional software development is that once you go live, generally speaking, it's open source and everything is available to everyone, right? Good, bad, ugly. And so it's a security play. Before Runtime Verification, I was with Capital One, and I was on their technology side of the house, specifically on their innovation side of the house, spinning up technology incubators at different universities. So yeah, hopefully that was not too much, but yeah, look forward to the conversation.
Gotcha. So, the background with Capital One, I'm curious before we kind of dive into the specific company stuff, like being at such a massive corporate enterprise transitioning into the stuff that you're doing now, what are a couple things that you took away from working at that large of an organization and bringing it into kind of the startup world?
Sure. So I think I definitely had a unique opportunity at Capital One where, so I was charged with spinning up a technology incubator at the University of Illinois. So the bank itself was already doing a heavy dose of recruitment, like most folks do at the university, especially on the technology side of the house, because this was 2015. The bank had really started to emphasize the narrative and the positioning as we are a technology company that happens to provide financial services, that happens to be a bank. And so what it wanted to do, it wanted to double down on its recruitment at the university by actually having a place where it could engage students, undergrad, graduate, PhDs, on emerging tech projects during the school year and also during the summer, and also augment those teams with full-time staff. Because the University of Illinois is a bit unique where it is in terms of Champaign-Urbana. It's very much a college town, 2 hours south of Chicago. Because of the legacy of the university from a foundational research standpoint, there's a lot of full-time talent that's here. And the university maintains a corporate innovation research park south of campus, and it's home to a variety of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 firms that are all kind of doing the same thing, trying to find creative ways to target, leverage, and work with students that eventually get kind of fed into their normal recruitment, development program pipeline. But what we definitely did was unique was we targeted younger students. They were an underserved market. So most folks were targeting juniors and seniors. We said, well, we'll target freshmen and sophomores and get like the pick of the pick, the best of the best, and then augment those folks with full-time staff. The reason it was unique is because So I was essentially standing up an operation from scratch, right? So it was kind of like being like it was essentially a 0 to 1 opportunity, Austin, inside of a larger organization. But I think one of the things that I was able to take from Capital One into the startup space is just a commitment to process, a commitment to seeing a process through, also being able to introduce, you know, maybe not necessarily like a full bore agile development methodology, but definitely like the fundamental tenets to it to actually structure a project beginning to end. Um, yeah, I mean, I think that's probably kind of process, professionalism, project management. Those were definitely kind of the fundamental tenets and pieces I was able to introduce to the companies where I work at now.
Okay, very nice. So at the current company, walk me through a little bit how you guys kind of got your first clients and customers coming on board. Like, walk me through the early stage days.
Well, I mean, at Pi Squared currently, so this is so we are pre-revenue, we are pre-DevNet. So in Web3, you generally have through three like particular development milestones. You have DevNet, TestNet, and Mainnet, and we're pre-DevNet. So right now, from a like sales and business development go-to-market perspective, our focus is on identifying partners and initial collaborators that are going to build on top of our infrastructure or are going to integrate their applications with our infrastructure. So in terms of how we go about, courting those prospects, it's all about identifying, like I'm sure everyone is familiar. I remember you like growing up, you would, like Venn diagrams, right? So kind of like the MasterCard logo, right? It's all about identifying that piece in the middle, right? That kind of common value proposition in the middle. And trying to make that as big as possible. It's kind of like, the pie analogy, trying to have that, big enough slices of the pie. Um, and making sure that, when we are actually communicating with them, that we are focused on solving their problems, right? So not necessarily, hey, this is what we're doing and pushing that out, but actually pulling out the information, extracting the information from them to understand where their pain points are, and then make sure that we're actually addressing those pain points and solving their problems directly with what we're putting on the table. Now, at runtime verification, it was very different because that is a traditional, it's a services play, right? So for that company, it was twofold. How do you generate new business? You generate new business by word of mouth, right? References was very powerful, and then you also generate new business by having actually folks, getting out and about, right? Attending conferences, attending talks, symposiums, just introducing the company constantly, trying to position, and this is actually true for Runtime and Pi Squared, I think actually in general, trying to position your senior leadership as thought leaders, as folks that are knowledgeable, provocative, that are actually looked at industry experts, because obviously that's going to generate interest and generate sales, especially with runtime verification, which, like I said, is a services business.
Okay, nice. So in the stage that you're at with pre-revenue and kind of gaining access to those like partners that are going to grow with you,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the challenges that you guys are facing as you're building out that infrastructure, both the technology side, but also the kind of sales and marketing and growth engine?
I mean, I think one of the big challenges on the technology side of the house is that, so what we are building, it's it's very expansive, um, it's very versatile, and so it's a blessing and a curse, right? The curse is that it's so versatile, so expansive that it can do a lot of different things for a lot of different people, for example. Just um, but the challenge is you need to actually find, so what are the target use cases that you're looking to focus on, right? What is the value that you're providing? What are the problems that you're going to solve? Because, I always tell folks, you need to identify that immediate need, that immediate use case, and do that really well, execute 100%, and then you can go on to the others, right? So you have the other different application verticals that you might be targeting. So for us right now, one of those initial use cases is AI agents, so AI agentic models, right? So how do you actually facilitate fast payment and settlement between agents? Agent to agent payments, kind of like you have, peer to peer, P2P, peer to peer payments in traditional finance, but these are actually agents doing payments. So agent A provides a service to agent B, and agent B needs to actually provide payment for said service. How do you actually provide that fast payment and settlement within Web3? Sorry. So that's from a technology perspective. Now, I think one of the challenges for actually identifying and targeting and working with those partners and collaborators is really trying to understand, and I'm going to kind of repeat what I said the last time, trying to really understand what are their pain points, right? What are their problems? What's actually holding them back? Because as a partner, if you can help them move their own agenda forward, if you can help them, you know, execute on their own roadmap, that's a huge win. And then you establish your credibility and your bona fides, and then you can continue working with them in the future. But more importantly, obviously with their blessing, hopefully you can use them as an example case study that you can actually leverage and put in front of other folks that you're looking to close business with.
Yeah. And I suppose the number one sales piece of advice is just actually listening first before trying to pitch and mold your product into their environment and what they're doing at their business.
I mean, 100%, right? I always tell folks, when you're doing, you have to engage and listen, especially when you're actually doing product development, right? Because the folks that are building it, right? They've all drank the Kool-Aid, right? They're adherents, true believers, right? But it could be the case, maybe they were doing some, workshop session, and they identified, okay, these are the 5 mission critical features and functionalities that I have to have in my product for an MVP on like day one launch, right? Well, what you don't want to happen is you don't want to okay, you go to your target customer, target user, and say, hey, I've got this, right? And they go, you know what? Those don't matter. Those aren't, those, you might think those are super important, but for us, they're way down the list. What we want is A, B, and C, right? And you're only going to be able to determine what that A, B, and C is if you actually listen, if you actually engage in conversation, right? If you actually maybe sacrifice a bit of your ego and actually listen. So you're 100% right, Austin, 100%.
What do you think your technology is going to be able to kind of disrupt or like wipe out in the future, especially as the tech that you're building and the AI agents get more powerful? Like who should be worried with your technology coming into the market?
That's one of kind of the common whenever the topic of AI comes up, right? It's twofold. It's right. Okay, this is what you should really be excited about because this is actually going to transform how we live and work. And then it's okay. What should we be concerned about? What should we be scared about? From my standpoint, I don't think that. I mean, when I look at this particular use case, I don't think we have. I don't think it's a question of fear or concern. I think it's a question of advancement and evolution. Now, that being said, I also, although I work in Web3, I don't think Web3 is going to replace, for example, traditional finance, right? I don't think that Bitcoin, ETH, and other digital assets are going to replace fiat currencies. I don't think stable coins are going to replace fiat currencies. I think that they're going to live side by side. And especially when it comes to digital assets in Web3, what we're seeing now, the challenge is, or like the inflection point is, okay, digital assets are here. As my mom always says, well, people care about them, so they're not going away, right? So they're here. Now the challenge is you need to establish concrete use cases and value propositions of in terms of how and where they should be used and how and where are they actually providing value. I think the biggest example right now, and this is something which is, the folks over here on in traditional finance and the folks over here on Web3, the one area where they are in complete agreement is the fact that stable coins provide a fundamental utility and benefit when it comes to cross-border payments in international remittances, which is a system that's broken, and there's just ripe for improvement, efficiency, et cetera. And stable coins can do that because they represent fast and efficient payments, cross-border payments. So that's the challenge. But from an AI standpoint, I don't think I think it's naturally for us to feel fear and concern, but I think we should also embrace or also understand that that these tools can have great impact and positive transformative change for all of us, right? And they're not going anywhere. The cat's out of the bag, right? You're not gonna put it back in. And so I think there's ample opportunities for folks to embrace a variety of tools, not just Chat GPT or Claude or Grok, right? There's a lot of different tools out there that can do a lot of different things. And once again, those tools are obviously focused on providing particular value for a particular use case. So I'm not concerned. I don't think folks should be concerned at a macro level, and definitely with respect to what we're building. I don't think it's a question of fear and concern. I think it's a question of progress and efficiency.
That's great. Kind of the last question I have for you is you said the main kind of use case is like the cross-border payments. What are some other use cases that like on the B2B level, potential clients and customers in the future should really be thinking about if you're a CEO or founder listening, like how could they be using what you guys are building to accelerate their progress?
Sure. So the mention of cross-border payments and international remittances, that's an example. It's not an example. It's actually a real world use case for stable coins today. So that's separate from what we're building. So what we're building, where I think that there is real application, it is on the fast payment and settlement, but it's those are on-chain payments and on-chain settlements, meaning that they're happening, within Web3. I think that in terms of also what we're building, where it could be applied, if you look at AI models, so models that are happening or models that are being built at the edge, all of those models they will need to be proven and verified. And those models can be proven, verified, and settled using the technology we're building, right? So I think there's definitely big opportunities there as well for folks that are actually exploring AI in any sort of depth. That if you're writing any sort of model, for that model to be commercially accepted, right? It's going to have to be proven and verified, and they can do that with our verifiability settlement layer.
Okay, great. I guess last thing is, if anyone watching is looking to work with you guys in any form or fashion as a partner or potential client in the future, how can they find you? What should they do?
They can find us online at pi2.network. Also, you can obviously reach out over LinkedIn, just like everybody else. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so that's Patrick MacKay, MacKay. I'm sure maybe it'll appear in the show notes, but that's probably the best way to get in touch. And yeah, would obviously love to have a conversation.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing some insights into the tech you're building and also just operations of the business in general. So yeah, really appreciate it.
All right, thanks, Austin. Appreciate it.